Well, good morning, YouTube. Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox, and in today's video, I want to talk about yes, you can. Remember that phrase? Remember that idiot who came up with a phrase, something like that? I'm not talking about him. I recently shot a video for Patreon, which I do on most days, in addition to the written word and my novel and all those things. Shameless plug, come visit us. It's a whole $1 a month, my goodness. At least check it out. But I did a post, and I was assigning Viking training task for Bravo, which has to do with a bug out bag and rucking. And I'm just gonna, that's what's spurring this conversation. I'm not really gonna talk about that video or anything. But we had this phrase, question phrase, when I was in the military. And it was, what is the maximum effective range of an excuse? And the correct answer is 0 meters. Excuses don't hack it. I guess I will talk about that video a little bit just to get to the point. One of the things we looked at was your bug out location, or perhaps your alternate bug out location. I don't want to get into semantics right now, but the reason one has a bug out bag is when everything else fails, you use your feet and you start walking, right? You got to get to where you're going. Well, that destination does not change based on how you feel. That start point, whenever you have to put your rucksack on, your bug out bag, and start walking, that start point does not change based on the weather, your fitness level, or anything else. Those are, come on dogs, we're gonna turn around. Those are solid givens. Those are. And so you whining about it, you saying, I can't, is the equivalent of sitting down on the side of the trail, curling up in a fetal position, sticking your thumb in your mouth, and saying, I'm just gonna die right here. Not much of a prepper if you give up that easy. And then this is what I always get, no matter what advice I give people, I always get this. But you don't understand my special, unique situation. I can't. You can and you can't. You can, which is what I'm going to keep the main thrust of this video on. Yes, you can. But with an attitude like that, no, you can't. I've been to a couple different courses, selection courses, courses with extremely high failure rates. The vast majority of people are self-select out who don't make it. They use what we call the Q word because you're not allowed to say quit. Sounds almost sophomoric, doesn't it? Sergeant, I'm thinking that my back, I kind of twisted it back there, and I think I may have to quit. You're gone. Bye. March or die. But it doesn't apply just to rucking. Carrying your bob to your bug out location. It has to do with life. So many people just default, and our society is getting softer. Oh my gosh. It's like now politically incorrect to push people. I can't imagine what it's like being in the military now. But you can't tell somebody, here, I'd probably go to jail today for what I used to do. I was, at one point, the XO of an infantry company, which means I was the second in command. And when we would run for physical training, I gotta yell at my dogs, they're chasing a baby deer. Hey, cut it out. When we would run as a company, about 130 people, for physical training in the morning, the company commander, my boss, would run up front with the little flag. Guy was carrying a flag next to him. And I'd run in the back. And I was in charge of what they called straggler control. And behind us was a truck that the people who just couldn't make it would get on. So my job was to keep the people in formation. And so when everyone's running, you know, this fast, and this guy starts falling back, and people start passing him, I'd yell at him, fall back in, let's go, let's go. And I would use all the motivation techniques at my disposal to make this person run. First, I'd try positive. You can do it, come on, get up there, we're almost done. Man, I would devolve all the way down to using words I no longer use, calling them a big wuss, slightly different vernacular, and telling them they're worthless and weak, and no one can count on them if they can't keep up on this stupid little slow run. I would keep at people, challenging their manhood until they threw up. When they threw up, I'd say, all right, now you can go. But I wouldn't push them anymore. And I'd let them fall back and they'd get on the truck. But I would push people till they threw up. Most people can go so much further and do so much more than they think they can. Sometimes all you got to do is push them, and when they get it done, you praise them. You say, see that? You did awesome, man. I know that was hard for you. I know you went out with the boys last night, didn't get in till 3, and you were still drunk, but you did great on that run. You tell them stuff like that, and then it's a check mark in their psyche. I thought that was hard, but I did it. Something else happens. You get them to push through. I thought that was hard, but I did it. Pretty soon they develop the self-confidence on their own that when something starts getting hard, they tell themselves, I've done hard things before. I've done things where I thought I was gonna die, but I made it. I'll make it through this. Somebody asked me once, I think on Patreon, how do you develop that? I think he said special operations. He might have said special forces. Attitude of just being able to push yourself beyond your limits. You know how you do it? You keep doing it. Somebody else was talking about on Patreon a course he went to that was basically a sniper course. And you go with a buddy. It costs a lot of money. And this thing was like an endurance event. And I'm probably getting the details wrong, but it's basically you and your sniper buddy run a mile, take a shot. Run a mile, take a shot. Run a mile, take a shot for 10 miles. Time and accuracy counts. And you have to finish as a team. It's a buddy team event, or you don't get credit. And this guy's buddy fell out like mile 5. Couldn't do it anymore. But the guy on Patreon said, well, all right, man, I'll see you. And I said, what are you going for? You can't get a certificate anymore because I've quit. We got to finish as a team. I can't go. Why are you still going to go do the next, however many legs they still had left? And he said, well, quitting is habit forming, and I don't want to form that habit. So how do you do tough things? Do tough things. If you want to run with the big dogs, you got to get off the porch. If you want to run with the big dogs, you got to pee on the tall trees, right? Don't let yourself say, I can't. Something else I say, which is related, I don't let other people tell me I can't. Oh, you can't do that. You're too old. You're not a 30-year-old Green Beret anymore, Pastor Joe. You better take it easy. Why? Why? That's ridiculous. Whenever anyone tells me you can't do that, I'm sorry, you can't do that. My response, whether I verbalize it or not, is always, or what? What if I do? You say I can't, what if I do? What are the costs? Cost-benefit analysis. Never say die. So let me give you some examples that I pick up here on YouTube, because I don't make many videos just for YouTube anymore, and if you go back, you'll see why. So on Patreon, where we're doing very well, and I actually have fun making videos there, everybody wants to be there. Here on YouTube, 80% of you want to be here, and that's cool, and I appreciate you. I really do. But man, there's the 20% of the knuckleheads, I call them idiots, on YouTube. Just comment, you just picture this big fat, pimply-faced 30-year-old living in his mom's basement, putting more useless calories into his yap while he's surfing around the internet all day, making what he thinks is snarky comments. Those people disgust me, and they kind of bring me down a little bit. Not a lot. I realize what I'm dealing with, but it's just the unreality out there of people. Whereas on Patreon, I don't have to deal with that. People want to be there. And I know about 80% of y'all want to be here too. But I get a lot of, I still get a little bit of them on YouTube, but I mean on Patreon, but I get a lot of whiny comments on YouTube of people saying they can't. You don't understand, Pastor Joe. I can't. That's easy for you to say, Pastor Joe, but I have my own special, unique snowflake experience that won't allow me to do that. My whole makeup, nature, nurture. I don't know. Was I born that way? Was I raised that way? I was certainly directed that way in my military career, but also in my civilian activities that I chose to do. My whole makeup is never say die, never quit, keep going. You see an obstacle, you don't go, oh, crap, that wall is 40 feet tall, covered in poop encrusted razor wire with pit bulls chained to the front of it. I guess we better turn around. No, I sit down and I think, how do I get over it? How do I go around it? How do I go under it? How do I go through it? Let's figure this puppy out, because that obstacle is not stopping me. There's probably some people south of the border that think that way, but most of them don't. People are weak. I don't want you to be weak. I want you to be strong. I want you to do the hard things, assuming it's legal and moral. If you find yourself dreading something, oh God, I just really don't want to do that, you should make yourself do it. You know, we're humans, we're very adaptable. We can get used to almost anything. Sadly, we get used to almost anything. Frog, pot, water, fire. I had somebody the other day, on one of our tasks is to go for a rucksack. Go take your rucksack, take your bug out bag for a walk. And the person said, yeah, I'd like to, but it's been raining for the last week and a half, so I'm waiting for a break in the weather. In other words, I can't because it's raining. Well, what if you do? You get wet. When I used to run a lot, and I don't anymore, at one point I was working in the Pentagon in an office kind of environment with a bunch of other Army majors. And every day at 10, we would take off and go run. We had different routes around the DC area that we would do. And we ran pretty quick for my pace. I've never been a fast runner. And these guys pushed me. And so it was kind of fast. And I developed, for me, they were a little bit different, my own clothing. Well, if it was 50 degrees or above, I just wore shorts and a t-shirt. That was fine for running, because you get hot when you run. You get hot when you ruck. This is not rucking, by the way. I don't have a rucksack on. I'm just walking. I talked about this on Patreon too, what's going on here. So 50 degrees and above, I'd wear a t-shirt and shorts. Down to 32 degrees, I just put a long sleeve t-shirt on top of my short t-shirt and just go. Yeah, I'd be cold for the first couple minutes, but the guys I was running with ran faster than my comfort zone, and so I quickly warmed up. Below 32, I'd put a hat on, little knit hat with shorts, t-shirt, and a long sleeve t-shirt. And below that, this was, Northern Virginia, DC. It doesn't get super cold there, really. If it was probably, this part I don't remember my hard fast rule, but like if it was below 50, or definitely if it was snowing or sleeting, I'd put like a pair of sweatpants on, because your legs get pretty cold. But I got caught out several times running in the hat, t-shirt, long sleeve t-shirt, shorts, and it started snowing. I'm still here. I didn't die. And neither will you. I really want to live a neo-pioneer off-grid, or maybe not off-grid. Off-grid's hard. But I want to live a homestead type life. I want to do the things that I see people do in the videos, because there's many homestead channels. But you don't understand, Pastor Joe. I can't, because what if you do anyway? Have you considered that possibility? Have you considered fixing the situation so you can have it all, baby? Usually you cannot have it all. Usually I'm gonna have ticks. I don't want to hike in the woods, there's ticks. Usually there's some kind of compromise that has to happen. Here's the other thing, which saddens me about America. It's a long video for YouTube. People generally have in life what they want and what they're willing to accept. The state of you is usually all about you and all because of you. You don't understand. A drunk driver hit me in an intersection and I lost both my legs. And now my life sucks. There's people with no legs who climb Mount Everest. Get up. Get walking. Quit telling yourself you can't. Life's short. Are you loving what you're doing? Are you loving what you're doing? You should be. I would say if you're in your 20s to mid 40s, which most of you are not, but if you're in your 20s to mid 40s, you should be looking ahead a little bit. And sometimes you have to embrace the suck now for a promise of something better in the future. But there's another excuse that people use. Why are you really doing what you're doing? Are you really doing it to set yourself up for the future? Is that gonna work? If that's gonna work, awesome. You're doing the right thing. But if it's just that, well, if I leave this job, I won't be able to find another one, and then I don't know what I'm gonna do. You can get a job doing anything. anywhere. Just go do it. Life is short. You should be loving what you're doing. You really should. Think about what you're doing. Live deliberately. Every action you take, think about it a little bit beforehand. Say, is this what I want to do? Does this further my goals? I might talk about that in my next Patreon video. That's a pretty good little segue. All right. It doesn't look like much in this viewfinder, but I'm walking this right now and wheezing and geezing because I'm not in as good a shape as I should be. But what am I doing about it? Trying to get better. All right. Hey, come see us on Patreon. Check it out. If you don't like it, quit. It's $1. All right. I'll see you out there.